the Salt Lake Acting Company was founded in 1970 by Ed Griska, and we're still producing the same type of work, brave, contemporary, risk-taking theater through the years. And Salt Lake Acting Company has had like 3 or 4 lives, but the quality of the work and the type of the work has never changed. And it's come to my attention through our audience how special Salt Lake Acting Company is. So here we are nestled in this conservative culture, and we have patrons saying things like this: if it weren't for SLAC, I would have left Utah a long time ago. Who says that about any other theater? SLAC makes living in Utah bearable. So I've always thought this place was special, but I've really come to terms to embrace that. I don't think, even if I was offered twice the amount of money, I don't think I would want to run any other theater company because of how special it is, and it's because of its incredible, open-minded, adventurous audience. And I also feel that where we live makes it special in Marmalade Hills, Marmalade Ward, built in 1896, I believe. So this goes to my me getting off the subject, and I'm going to tell you about the ghosts that are at Salt Lake Acting Company. So I've been at SLAC administratively since 1998, and my job was to obtain and retain 4,000 subscribers, and we're to 3,400. So I hope I get that before I'm 80, okay? Because I'm going to work here until I achieve 4,000 subscribers. But the crew, you know, the tech guys, the crew, these are like just guys, and they'd be just coming down, and you know, they would tell me that there's an Indian chief in the upstairs theater, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And then other crew members, different ones, would feel an Indian chief, and then we had this air conditioner guy that said there's a ghost in the scary place down in the furnace room. And because I heard him one day saying, okay, I'm here, I'm just gonna check the filters. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, there is a ghost here, and I just like to tell him that I am here. So, flash forward a few years, and I'm approached by a ghost organization who wants to come to Salt Lake Acting Company to check out what ghosts are there. And I'm going to need my water. And so I said, of course, yes. And I didn't tell them anything about what I know. So they first started, my office at that time was the box office before we remodeled, and the box office used to be the bishop's office. And so in that office, there is a young girl, African American. She died, I can't remember if she died falling off a ladder or of an illness, but her mother used to clean the building. And she loves Salt Lake Acting Company and wants to be an actress, so she just loves everything that we do. And then there's Harold, who is a much more conservative man. He kind of likes what we do upstairs, but the language is just too much. And but he's amazed at the technology, amazed at all the computers, amazed at all the technology. And then we went to the upstairs theater, and I didn't say anything about the Indian chief. And she said, yeah, there's an Indian chief here. A lot of his people were buried along the land where SLAC lies. And so he is there to protect his people, and he also loves the work that we do. So this was like in 2010 when they came out. And I swear to God, I felt like I was 13 years old at a sleepover because it just got so like scary. And so we went down to near the furnace room, And she started talking about there's an angry old man ghost there that's not going to hurt anybody. He's just mad at everything, mad at the world, and kind of just stays there in the corner. And we heard a noise, and we just like we all ran up to the lobby screaming, just like we're like, you know, young teenagers. And then we went, I'm just trying to think if there's any more ghosts. Then we went to the Relief Society, and that was the building. That was a little harder to kind of tell. There was like so much energy. So that Relief Society building that is right next to us, that little white building, we use it for dressing rooms. And it was moved. It wasn't originally there. It was moved from someplace else, and was attached to the ward. And but there was a man that keeps circling the building because he's looking for his wife. So he's like in this constant circle. And then they did talk to this woman, but this is where I kind of go, okay. But they've been pretty right on of what other people have felt. They did talk to this woman who is falling away from the church, but she wouldn't admit any of it. You know, she doesn't want to talk bad about it. She didn't want to, you know, and I don't know if that woman was connected to the man. So after that, every time I really wanted, especially to feel Chloe, you know, the young girl that wants to be an actress. And so I was walking into the building completely different and like trying to feel any presence. And so a light went on at the alarm that I've never seen before. And I was like, oh my gosh, there she is. And then I come to find out that's a light that always comes on and off. But it was just like, I was just wanting it to be her. But so anyway, that's how we'll start our Halloween with all the ghosts at Salt Lake Acting Company. I feel like I'm missing one ghost. So if they come to me, I'll interrupt whatever I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You said you're in Marmalade. What is Marmalade?
So where Salt Lake Acting Company is on 168 West, 500 North, right down from the Capitol. It's called the Marmalade District now. And because there were so many fruit trees, and there's still a lot of fruit trees in that area, so they named that area Marmalade. So the ward, when that was built, they called it Marmalade Hills Ward. And there are people that still come to Salt Lake Acting Company saying, I just want to walk in because I used to go to church here. So that's kind of cool. And I think Gail Miller went to church at Salt Lake Acting Company now. Anyway, I'll get my piece of paper. So I'd like to introduce you to Josh. He's my director of communications. I was raised at Salt Lake. I'll tell you a little bit of my personal history, but since I got all my theater administration training at SLAC, I kind of like to take the elevator down and train people and mentor them in administrative ways as well. And Josh joined us right after college for a couple years. Then he went off to New York, and then he's worked in communications in high-powered businesses like Shutterstock and what's
Getty Images.
Yeah. So, like so many of us do, we come back. We think we want to leave Utah, but we come back. Same thing happened to Josh. So I, at first said, come, just work in the box office. And then as we got going, I was like, I would love for you to be my director of communications. So he really has brought a whole nother level to that because he already has the knowledge, and also SLAC is a beautiful way for him to learn and grow, so he's not like stuck. But he also encouraged me to talk a little bit about myself, which I would not do. So I'm going to do that. So I was born and raised in Bountiful, Utah. and all I wanted to do was to get out of Bountiful. And I was so happy to go to the university. I started dance classes when I was 7, ballet, very strict because I was pigeon-toed and gawky, and my mom was Miss Utah, and so she had to fix that. And luckily, I'm glad she did. And then I was just talking to Josh, I saw Sweet Charity, the movie, and I'm like, that's what I want to go into, is musical theater. And the University of Utah had an amazing program, and I don't know if you know Roland Butler. Yeah, I owe my whole career to him. And so then I left, went to LA, I got into the touring show of A Chorus Line, and ended up on Broadway for 6 years. And I had a child in between. And then when the show closed, I wanted to have another child. And this is really critical. I didn't want to get a theater job because I know if I got another play, I would never have another child. And so a friend of mine suggested that I go work at Lancôme. I'm not Lancôme, just as a makeup artist at Bloomingdale's. And so I went to the Lancôme counter because that's what my mom uses, and I got hired. And it was the best thing because if I didn't have that training, I would not be able to be talking to you today, because I was the type of performer that if I didn't know you, I was incredibly shy. And so I would have these women in my chair, and I would have these amazing conversations for 20 minutes. And then when I didn't have somebody in my chair, I had to be annoying and pass out all those flyers and all of that. So that's really the best training. And I was so competitive, so I was like the best salesperson. And they kept wanting to promote me, but I didn't drive in New York. So so promoting me means I would have to drive to all the stores in like Long Island, Connecticut, and I was like, no. But if I would have been promoted, I would not be here right now. So I'm very grateful that there was this plan for me. I came back to Utah not knowing what to do, freelance for Lancôme at all the department stores. A friend of mine knew I was in town, asked if I'd like to choreograph something I never choreographed before. So I called my friend and said, how do you do that? And I said yes to that. The next job was, I'm going to Salt Lake Acting Company and directing a play. Will you choreograph it? I said yes. That's where I met Al and Nancy, who was running the theater at the time, and write Saturday's Foyer. And they asked me to choreograph Saturday's Foyer. That's in '94. Part of the big change with the '95 Saturday's Foyer, where it all became new. And then Nancy asked me to obtain and retain subscribers in 1998. And then Nancy and Al was not managing the theater anymore and just wanted to write Foyer. And then there was new management, and the theater was kind of weird. I wanted to quit. My husband said no, which was the first time anybody said no. And so I cried for like a week. So then I decided, well, if I have to work here, how do I make it more joyful? And I realized that my box office knew more about this theater than anybody in the building, because they are the first step to the audience. And so I made this plan that I would be the communications director, and the box office would do all this stuff. It would save the theater $75,000 and new energy. And this was during, because I know you were here during the 2009 era. And then the board approved it, and then just things happened. And being an executive artistic director was never like in my timeline, but things just happened. And I think it's mostly because I've always been so connected to the audience. Early on, I learned, because Artix was doing our ticketing, and we were calling people to renew, and they were saying, no, I don't want to renew because Artix is so terrible. So many people did not want to renew because they got bad customer service. And so I realized that we needed to how do we take care of our audience? And so we became an outlet of Artix. And then our customer service, I think, is the best in the nation. And it's because, this is what I tell my staff, and then I'm going to move on. I said the effort that it takes to come to the theater is this. First of all, you have to hear about it, see it somewhere, and then you have to remember that you saw it and hear about it, and then you have to buy tickets, and then it's a decision, do I go online, do I make the phone call? And then before you buy tickets, it's like, do I bring somebody, or do I go by myself, or who, that decision to coordinate before you get the tickets. Then you get the tickets, and then it's like, what do I wear? Do I go home from work? Do I eat there? I mean, all this stuff. So by the time you get to the theater, that's been quite a journey. And so every single person should be honored for that commitment to come to the theater, and we make it as easy as subscribers to exchange as possible. So that is kind of my story. Also, you can ask questions anytime. I'm going to leave. Yes?
I ask lots of questions. What is an artistic director?
Okay, so an artistic director, well, I'm an executive artistic director. Usually there's a managing director and an artistic director. So the artistic director takes care of all the programming and what plays we produce and everything that goes on at the theater that way. The managing director takes care of the finances and all of that. So I'm kind of both, and I have a great staff under me that helps me with this because I have a great idea with the finances as well as the artistic, and I don't have to go up to a managing director and say, hey, I want to produce Fun Home. Can we do it? Because then they'll look at money and go, no. So I just go, I want to produce Fun Home, and it's like, okay, we're going to do it, and we're going to make it happen, and we'll figure out how to come up with the funds. So I kind of like run the theater.
So how do you decide what plays to do? Do you have a committee you work with, a group?
Yeah, it's
Or
kind.
on your own?
Yeah, so the staff is involved. We get the plays from very many resources. Sometimes subscribers send me plays. We belong. Okay, some of that I'll be answering a little bit later. So I'll just go on because you'll find that out. But it comes from many, many sources. So what has been happening, especially since 2015, the American theater field is really, really taking on the leadership role in diversity, inclusion, and equity. And because these stories really reflect who we are and kind of mirror back, so how do we authentically do this and give marginalized groups the opportunity? So that has brought a beautiful, but it's very hard and very mindful, especially living in Utah where there's not that much diversity, and like how do you go and get it? And there's also the equity of female playwrights to male playwrights, people of color playwrights to white playwrights. And so where the American theater field, I feel, are really at the front line of this, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, and very proud that it's in our consciousness at all times. So where I really learned this is when we produced the play Tribes, and there is a character who is deaf, and he's born into a hearing family. So we did reach out to our deaf community by email to get the notice out, so if there's any deaf actors that would like to audition, that they would know about it. And so when auditions came, no one showed up. And so we did hire a hearing actor. So we got our hearing actor, a coach who was deaf, and they were friends of our producing director. And then there was some conflict. They said I can't really work with him. And this actor was really a lovely actor. I couldn't understand it. So we reached out to the deaf community in our area, and in Ogden, it's a really great center. And they said, yeah, we'll help you. But then they read the play and they said, no, this needs a deaf actor. So meanwhile, I'm being interviewed by American Theater Magazine, which is this amazing magazine, and telling them that we tried to get a deaf actor, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And then all of a sudden this happened, and I said, get American Theater Magazine on the phone because I have a whole nother story. And so then I realized, I mean, they were telling me we'd have to close down the show. You put a hearing actor in it with a role that should have a deaf actor, you're going to have to close down the show. So I realized I had to get a deaf actor. And luckily, a week before we started rehearsals, I did hire an actor that has done Tribes before, and Stephen Drabicki, and just a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And I made the actor that we did hire an assistant director. So it all turned out a great learning lesson. This is what I learned from that. Prior to this lesson, if I had a child that was deaf, I would try to make them into our world. Like, how can they go into our hearing world so they can live a life that's full? This is my old thinking. Now, if I would have a deaf child, I would go into his world or her world, and so they could have a full life and acknowledge that being deaf really is not that much of a disability as the way that we are thinking. And so that was a huge lesson. So, are we on the next slide? Oh, okay. So, in 2010, when it was our 40th anniversary, SLAC is now 48 years old, looking back, I was like, how can I give back as the theater company to the community? So then, and this has also started when the crash came. So since that time, it's like, how can we help each other? We're all in this together. So the plays tell us everything. So through the plays' themes, we have partnered with many organizations. But this last season, the Transgender Education Advocates of Utah, Utah Domestic Violence, Her Captains, Boys and Girls Club, Utah Pride, and the YWCA, International Rescue Center. So it's really opened us up. And through that, sometimes we host, or we're busy all the time, but I love to just give my space to fundraisers for Utah Epilepsy Association, the University of Utah Sociology Department, Art Access. So I really try, like, thank you for supporting SLAC. How can we give back? And so with the diversity, inclusion, and equity, this play came to my attention, Surely Goodness and Mercy, and it had an all African American cast. And it was a beautiful, beautiful story of how we help each other. And that's what spoke to me the most, because it felt like that's a story we all need to be reminded of. And Chiza Hutchison, who is also African American, she was shocked that Salt Lake City wanted to produce her play, and she said, "Is there Black people in Utah?" And so this is one of her quotes. It's very easy to rely on stereotypes when you don't encounter a particular population or you have very limited exposure to a certain type of people. It's very easy to dismiss them or to generalize in a way that is kind of dangerous, because you may miss out on whatever it is those folks have to offer. Where I come from, diversity is a good thing. It's a strength when you have people who think differently or have experienced life differently, and they bring in that experience that you don't have. It's generally an asset. She had a lovely experience here. I learned from Tribes, if you reach out once and no one comes, that's not good enough. It took us 3 months to cast this play, and that's what I decided to do. I realized we didn't work hard enough for Tribes, and so we did get a lovely cast. We also had 2 sets of kids, and these kids some of them had very little theatrical training, but they just rose to the challenge. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience for us. And then our next play, Mercury, stretched us artistically, because the play puts that a bear comes on stage and a man comes through it, and there's all this blood. And the stage was this turntable. It was all these things we have never done before. And I am so proud of our artistic team, the set designers, our crew, the lights, the stage management, everybody. There was nobody that said no. And they kept working and kept working. And the playwright was so amazed because he doesn't get that kind of experience anywhere else. And so we truly made theatrical gory magic. This was a year ago. It was around the Halloween time. And that blood, so there's a bathroom in the women's that kind of has a separate door. We turned that into a shower, like, put plastic around because he had to wash off all this blood. So that was something that I was very proud of. And then our next play here asked for a transgender actor. And that was another one that was really hard and took months to find the right actor. And this is where risk-taking theater comes. I still was proud with my team. I was still proud, but we came with so many challenges, and it was like one after another, that the humor of this play kind of got lost, and it was presented in a much more realistic way, which was not right, and we couldn't find it with all these things that came, and I went, oh, that's the risk-taking part of theater, that sometimes it just doesn't come. The acting was absolutely incredible, but we needed to find that humor with that. Oh, another thing, and this is my quote. We had to learn. This is what I love about this job. Every day I'm learning more and more and more of all the different pronouns that there are, and to use the pronouns. So Legera there, they is transgender person and goes by they, them, and it was really difficult. But everybody tried, and even sometimes the actors would fail. And I'm constantly rethinking my life. I revel in the understanding and ever-broadening awareness of what it means to be human, how we can improve our relationships with each other. A core value of SLAC is inclusion and supportive work environment, and honoring personal gender pronouns is an important component of creating a safe place for staff, artists, and audience. And when some of us slipped, Jerry goes short by Jerry, she didn't feel safe. And I think that's not feeling safe is not feeling recognized, not feeling like you see who I am. And I know this is a whole learning thing, because first of all, it's not just one set of pronouns, it's everything from A to Z. And so it was an awareness that brought to the theater and to the community. And then Fun Home. Fun Home was a dream come true. As soon as I heard the original cast recording, I fell in love with it. And I said, this is a Salt Lake Acting Company play. Then it goes on and wins a Tony Award. And it's like, oh no, I don't know if I'll ever be able to get that play now. But I'm at the way that I would be telling everybody, we want to produce Fun Home. In the grocery store, anybody. And then we'll go to the next slide. Michael Cerveris played the father in the Tony and won the Tony in Fun Home. He happened to be in Salt Lake City and had heard about Salt Lake Acting Company and came to see Climbings of Tigers, a play that we were producing. And luckily I was there, so I met him. I took him up to the upstairs theater and I told him that we're going to produce Fun Home one day. And so when we did get the rights, I did write him, and he said this great quote, "I'm delighted Fun Home is going to be presented for the first time by a local company in Utah, and even more delighted to learn that that company is Salt Lake Acting Company, who I know firsthand have the heart and skill to bring it to life for the Salt Lake community. I feel that I saw it in New York, I saw the touring company in Las Vegas, and I'm really being objective here. I think our production was better than the New York and better than the Vegas company because the actors and the director, I picked the perfect director, just brought so much heart and life to it. I cried every time that mother sings this Day After Day song. It was just amazing. So that was wonderful. And then Saturday's Foyer, how many got to see it? It was probably part of the Osher event. Yeah, so 40 years, we're the only theater company that has a play like this that's written new for our community and has lasted so long. And we're kind of starting there. KUED did a little bit of a 10-minute magazine documentary that'll be out in a year, but we're working on a bigger documentary that we're hoping that maybe for its 50th anniversary, if you can believe it. I learned everything I know is from working on Saturday's Foyer, because in the early years when I started, Al and Nancy did not have the play written. And so we would rehearse, and the rehearsal started late. It was like from 7 to 11. We would rehearse, and then Al, Nancy, me, and the musical director would stay talking till about 2 in the morning of what they were going to write for the next day for the next rehearsal. And that went on for a few years like that. Then, and so I look back on it, I wonder, my husband never said anything, but I look back now going, my God, if he would have come in at 2 in the morning, every night, I would have had some questions. But no, he knew I was working, and it was crazy. But then we joined Equity, which made us really professional, and they have more guidelines and rules. And since Al and Nancy aren't managing the theater, we have the play at a certain time, but we still get it really, really late. So, and that's where we get our subscribers. That's where we get everybody that comes to our theater. So from this season, I was really honored that Salt Lake Acting Company won the HRC Equality Award. It kind of meant that we were right on track with on track with being with our intention of being a resource to the community for diversity and inclusion. I didn't realize in picking plays, I don't pick them for anything other than this story resonates with me. So when I went back, I didn't realize there was a LGBTQ character or reference in every play last season. And then our children's show was a true story of the 3 little pigs, and then we said, we're not sure about their sexual orientation, but SLAC would be a safe place if they wanted to come out. So anyway, that was a nice honor. And then this next season, which I think has gotten off to a very good start, I realized that with the state of the world, we need more light, we need more joy, and contemporary plays are written from playwrights through the lens of usually from a problem or something that needs to be focused on. And so they're so thought-provoking, and they can get dark. So it is hard to pick contemporary plays and then have light in them. And also I'm in there a lot more now to make sure that the light is represented. So I called A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the gynecologic oncology unit. Wait, don't tell me. At Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center of New York City. You just could read it there, but that was when I read it. I went, "This is a romantic comedy." Finally, SLAC, because I wanted to get a romantic comedy. Of course, to make it SLAC, it was set in a cancer room, but it was very beautiful, moving, plus funny piece. So I thought we got off to the right start. And then Wolves is starting right now. It just blew New York away, about a high school soccer team, and girls are written in a very smart way. It's not the stereotype of the mean girl or the nice girl or the whatever. These are girls talking about issues today, talking about their lives, dealing with some really hard stuff, and also that the bravery of living life and the camaraderie of being part of a team and what that means. So I'm proud of that. And the cake is a kind of representative of a bakery that a girl grew up with, a baker, and they were best friends with her mom who had passed away, and she asks this woman who practically raised her if she would bake the cake for her wedding, and she said, of course. And then when she saw who walks in, her fiance is a woman, she's like, I'm busy, and she wouldn't do it. But this is written by the writer of This Is Us. Have you watched that TV station? I love that TV show. I love that show. So as she has written This Is Us, so layered. I'm bored by family dramas, but This Is Us has so many beautiful layers. That's what this play has. And then Silent Dancer is a dream child from playwright Kathleen Cahill and me. And it's a new form. We're taking dance to tell part of the story as the text. So both will be represented. So we'll dance, we'll talk, we'll dance, we'll talk, and hopefully the dance will move it. Christopher Rood, this is another dream. Christopher Rood, principal dancer of Ballet West, is choreographing it. I grew up watching his father dance, and then when I moved back and Christopher Rood was part of Ballet West, and my mother always subscribed, and we kind of adopted him because we had so much family history, and I never thought I would ever be talking to him, let alone working next to him. So that's been a dream. And then of course Saturday's Foyer. Oh, no, I'll keep going. Oh, okay. So these programs that have been implemented, so through the years, Slack has done really great work, and but mostly just on the plays until 2009. Then we started to have all these education programs, and I understand why somebody would just want to do the plays, because that is enough work. Because to add all this community outreach, which I have as much passion for as the producing plays, takes as much effort. So 2009, we decided in our only time off, December, to produce a children's show. And then we found out that kindergarten through second are the children that do not have money for field trips. So we thought we would do plays and invite these children in for free. It's always based on a book, so they all read the book before, and then they come. And we were scared. We were so scared that, it was something new. We just didn't know. And I remember at that time, I was the one that organized all the schools. And so the first class, and I've never really worked with children, so the first class comes in really early, like almost an hour early. And so I sit them, and the teacher's talking to them for a while, and then all of a sudden she introduces me, like for me to go over to talk to the kids. And I'm like, and then I just started asking questions like, did you read the book? What do you hope to see? Have you been in a play? Have you seen a play? And then it turned into now a very special warm-up that we do all the time, that conversation with the kids. So, okay, this is another thing. So these students walk in, I seat them. I try to say hello to every single one of them. They walk in and they're like this. Of course, I'm like gigantic, and they're right here. So I'm saying hello, and no one's looking at me, and they're all walking. Maybe somebody will look up at 1:30, right? And after the play, I'm at the door of the theater, and to say goodbye to them, everyone, eye contact, they're thanking me. When one starts to hug me, thousands of them do. It's like, I have to get my staff to get that picture. They feel like in Nutcracker with those children under the dress. And it realizes, oh, this is why we're here. This is what we do. This is the power of theater. And so this is one of our most special programs at SLAC. 10 minutes? Okay, great. Then we have, the National New Play series, which is our part of our play development, where we have free readings, and sometimes it's the first time the playwright hears the play on stage. And so that's been very, very beneficial. And it's really interesting to hearing a reading and seeing a play are two different things. And sometimes it's better because in your imaginations, sometimes it's better than whatever we could do. So it's really a nice thing, okay? And then art access is, during Tribes that season, we have a green room gallery, as some of you have seen, and so we decided to try to get artists based on the themes from the play. And so one year, I was looking up deaf artist, art access came out. Artist, Alzheimer's, art access came out. Veteran artist, art access came up. So I said, I have to meet with art access. So I met with the executive director, and their mission is Art Access builds an inclusive and diverse arts community in Utah through creative opportunities for people with disabilities and other marginalized communities, and through public engagement in the arts. So since 2015, we have been married, and they curate our green room gallery, and we get to meet the most amazing artists. So I'm very proud of that relationship. University of Professional Theater program was based on my experience at the University of Utah, when Pioneer Theater was much more community-based, and so many students got to perform, and I performed a lot in my college years, and I would get this paycheck, and we were at quarters at that time. I would get this paycheck, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this pays for my quarter of school. And so Pioneer Theater is doing a better job with students now, but at this time they weren't. And so I thought we need to be this here for the students, that they could act in our plays, they could be part of assistant director, designers, whatever. And then I went to meet with the managing director of Pioneer Theater at that time, so because I wanted them to help me with this, and I told him about the paycheck. He said, that was designed, but unfortunately we can't afford to pay their semester in college, but we do pay the students. And it's really when you're working in the real world of theater, if that's what your dream is, to really take you to that level. So we also have a starving student pass. We know their life is busy, so for $32, they can come stand by for any of our plays. And we also can reserve their seats, and we have, that goes from a lot of University of Utah, Westminster, Salt Lake Community College, Utah State, UVU, so we have a really good relationship. Back to how do we choose plays? We belong to the National New Play Network, which was created 20 years ago because there used to be a world premiere itis, which means if somebody did a world premiere of the play, nobody else wanted to do it because they're like, we want to do the world premiere. So these poor, fantastic contemporary plays were not being produced because all the theaters are going no. So they created a way they called a rolling world premiere, which we have been a part of. Surely Goodness and Mercy was one of them, where like at least 3 theaters are producing the play. And that means these plays can get, so, and one of Steve Yockey's play, the Blackberry Winter play that we produced, got 8 theaters to produce their play. So we're connected. They have this new play exchange online where we can go and look for plays, saying we want a comedy, 3 characters, and then a lot of plays to read. So that really helps us. And how many minutes do I have?
You have about 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I am going to close with, in 2016, there was a Ghostlight Project came to our attention, and it was emailing every theater in the nation that on January 19th, we were to go gather whoever we want to gather and light a light. So a ghost light of a theater is the one that you we don't do it because we open a window for our ghost light. You never should have it dark. It kind of keep it safe, right? So usually people have this stand and a light, and you've seen that. So there's a meaning behind that of being safe, kind of a safe place. So they use this, that all theaters would be a safe place. So their action statement is, on January 19th is a movement of gathering within a larger resistance to intolerance at all levels. We aim to create brave spaces that will serve us as lights in the coming years. We define a brave space as a space where it is safe to be who you are, regardless of race, class, religion, country of origin, immigration status, disability, age, gender identity, or sexual orientation. And so prior to that, SLAC has always tried to be that. So at one point I was like, why do I have to do something to like say? But it was a beautiful thing, and it was a beautiful time that we did it. And we just have in our lobby a little like light you put into the socket that is on at all times. And during the play was in February, I announced it at the host speech that we're part of the Ghostlight Project. Our director was from New York, and she came downstairs and said to me, I really can't believe that you can announce the Ghostlight Project to your audience. And I'm like, why? She said, well, I know a lot of theaters in New York would not do that because they might lose funding. And so I had nothing to say to her about that because I didn't know what to say. But the next morning I realized, well, this theater company has come across like Saturday's Foyer. We finally, last 2 years, Dale Smith, he's a veterinary surgeon, is the first person to ever sponsor Saturday's Foyer. So we have lived as a theater company that we do this work, try to be authentic as we are, and there are people that will support us and there's people that will not. But it really surprised me that somebody might lose funding because you were being a safe place. Just didn't kind of click with me. So I'm going to close with that. And it's something, being a safe place in the workplace and on stage and in the rehearsal room is not an easy job. It takes, there's a lot of conversations. If things happen, we need to address it. It's a lot of work, but we're taking that task, and we will continue to do that. So right now, I would love to open up to any questions that you might have. Yes?
The University of Utah Student Theater Program does not have all university open auditions?
So you were saying, oh, the university theater programs do within their community, within their program itself. So they put on plays, they put on all these.
But when they put on plays, they don't let anybody from the university audition?
Yes, they it's student oriented. But what I was talking about is how did they get professional experience while they're going? It's about being an educational experience to a professional experience. So that they can, and some theater, so Weber State right now is like, I just want our students to be and do our productions. They don't want them to do any other theater. And that impacts us because there's a lot of talent in our universities, a lot of talent. So it's to help them get professional experience before they graduate so they don't have to wait. And then it does make that transition easier. Because I worked at Pioneer Theater, when I got into a chorus line, there was no transition. That's such an incredibly professional run theater that it was like, whoa. And so only a few students get to work at Pioneer Theater. So this is to give them more opportunities. Yes, sir.
What's your base staff as far as your organization? How many permanent employees do you have?
So we have, which is one of the largest, 10 now. So I have myself. I'm going to go by room in my head. We have a communications team that's of 2 people. Then I have an accountant / HR person. Then I have a business manager that we call him that. He does like all the IT stuff. He did the graphics here. He's like graphic designer, so we don't know what his name should be. Then we have a development director and a part-time development person. And then Josh, director of communications. And Cassie is she's the development associate and audience development. And then an associate artistic director and a director of audience services. I asked the board to help with, I needed more staff. Right now, I have the dream staff because of this growth of our audience. We are constantly getting a record-breaking audience. The growth of the audience and the growth of our community outreach, the staff is working so hard that we have no time to recoup. So I've really been working hard. Josh was a beautiful addition, and to really close that gap that we could handle all this community outreach and all the work in the place. So
Where do you present your plays?
So it's at the Salt Lake Acting Company, which is right west of the Capitol and right across the street from Washington Elementary. So it's 5th North and 2nd West.
How big is your seating for your?
Oh, yeah, great question. So in the upstairs theater, we have 2 spaces. The upstairs theater, we seat 160. And then for Saturday's Foyer, we add cabaret tables, and so it turns into 206. And then we've gotten some side seating for our kids show, so that's now 192 because we've needed the space for that. And then we have the chapel space that seats 115 people. So it is quite intimate, and it kind of spoils you for any other theater because of how intimate you are. Sometimes when I go into a bigger place, I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I can't hear it. You know what I mean? I'm doing all of that. So I'm really spoiled by our...
So is your smaller one a black box setup?
It's kind of like a black box, yes. So it's kind of 3/4. So if you're the stage, there's seating all around here. So it's 3/4 seating, and yes. And so you're like sitting here, and you could be the actor. So, and it's so lovely as an audience, but it's really hard on the actors because sometimes I stopped selling popcorn during those chapels. Somebody's just eating popcorn, when they're trying to like do their thing, or you can see everything that you kind of do, So it takes so much concentration for the actor, but it's a beautiful, beautiful experience for an audience. Any other questions?
How are you funded?
Oh.
What's your principal funding?
That is the question. So we do get some funding from ZAP, the Zoo Arts and Parks program from the Salt Lake County, that's really brought all of our arts organizations up to a whole nother level. So we thank them every performance. It's mostly individuals and ticket income. Our audience rocks. So we are 65% is earned income, which is concessions, ticket income, individuals that give donations, and then 35% is foundations and corporations. So we need a lot more work in helping. Ideally, it would be 50-50. So we need a lot more work, and I now have the team that we can help and in that quest. So I don't like to choose plays because I can't afford 5 actors, so we have to have a 2-actor play, So and I think our audience deserves the best work and not feel the lack on there. But so far we've been able to make things manage, but we do want to elevate our giving. So.
How technically advanced are your stage and so forth, all this?
So we have, and I'll tell you a dream too, when you think of why that inspired my dream. So because our upstairs theater was the gymnasium in the church, right? So the ceilings are really low. There's no wing space, right? So we are technically trying to do the best we can. We have stretched ourselves in the last 3 years. But there's still a lot of things you can't do. Like there's this play called Brief Encounter where there's a moment where the two actors come down sitting on a chandelier. I love this play so much. I can't do it because there's no way we can come down. But, so, a few years ago, I got an email of a gentleman asking me if they can use my parking lot for a family reunion. And I answered yes, but why? And he said, well, my grandmother's house used to be there. And so we just want to have our party there. And then I got thinking, if a house was there, wouldn't it be nice to have a theater there? And then technically, so if we could build a new theater there, but you know, all this is like a dream, but you never know. Build a theater there where we can technically have, you know, so we've done the best we can. We've got a new sound system. We got LED lights. So we've been doing the best we can, but there's so much more magic tricks we could do.
St. Mary's.
Huh?
Put up the new one and take down the old one for her.
Oh.
Also St. Mary's. Don't you know the classic Bing Crosby movie?
Oh, yes, but I haven't seen that for a long time. Oh, yeah. Oh, that I'm going to revisit. Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is keeping that for like maybe a full season of children's plays, the upstairs theater and Saturday's Foyer, and then have the other for all our other plays. So great questions. Anybody else? Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you at your theater.